Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Miles Davis Sculpture Unveiling. Before we get started, though, I'd like for you to give a big hand to the Casimir Taylor Quartet. Excellent music. My name is Jim Killian, and I'm your MC for the evening. We've got a brief program before the unveiling, and I'd just like to make one logistics comment before I get into the agenda here of the program. We'd like for you, once we do unveil, we'd like for you to sign the register. We want everybody to sign in. We want to acknowledge you being here. Okay, this is just a wonderful, great day for Alton. It's historic. It's wonderful. It's not only for Alton, but for jazz fans from around the USA, from around the world, actually. And we've got people here from near and far. We've got people here from East St. Louis, from St. Louis, Edwardsville. We also have people from afar. We have people here from Chicago. Okay. We've got people from New Mexico. Okay. California, I heard. And we also have, I think I have a relative here from Gary, Indiana. So I'd like for you guys from Alton to give them a big Alton welcome. Okay, what I want to do is, at this point, before we get into it, I'm going to do a rundown on the program for you. But before we do that, I want to, again, thank each and every one of you, because to take time out of your weekend, on behalf of the committee, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your weekend to be here with us for this wonderful event. It's been a long time coming, and we're glad you're here to celebrate it with us. Let me just walk you through what we're going to be doing. First, we're going to talk about the Miles story, just bring you up to date and share with you the highlights of his life. Then we're going to have remarks from the Davis family. Then we'll have reflections and memories from Miles's babysitter. Well, actually, then we'll have remarks from the Miles Davis Memorial Project Committee, our co-chair persons. Next, our dignitaries. We'll have remarks from our mayor and our state senators. And then we have a special guest that came in from New Mexico that we're going to share with you. And then we'll wrap it up with our sculptor extraordinaire, Preston Jackson, and then we'll have the unveiling. Well, before we do anything, we have to give honor and praise to the Heavenly Father. So I'm going to ask Jason Harrison, who's the Associate Chaplain for the Alton Police Department, to come forward with the invocation.
Thank you. Dr. Howard Thurman made this quote. He said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Then go do it. Because what the world needs is more people to come alive." So in my prayer, I'm going to incorporate that you all come alive. Because I believe I can confidently say that Miles Davis was alive, and consequently, who was what the world needed. Let us bow our heads. We thank you, God in heaven, for these people. We thank you for this great historic event that's taking place. We thank you for this great city. We thank you for everybody who played a part in it to strengthen this and to make this happen. I ask you that you stir up dreams, stir up visions this day, and let other people come alive, that they may make history and we may remember them. And we ask this in your Son's name, amen.
Amen.
Miles Dewey Davis III was born in Alton, May 26, 1926, to an affluent African-American family. His father, Miles Jr., was a dentist, and as a matter of fact, he had an office right here on this street, in this block. Just think, 90 years later, who would have known, who would have thought that we'd be honoring his son as one of the great of the jazz world. Miles Davis is the most revered jazz trumpeter of all time, not to mention one of the most important musicians of the 20th century. He was the first jazz musician of the post-hippie era to incorporate rock rhythms, and his immeasurable influence on others in both jazz and rock encouraged a wealth of subsequent experiments. From the bebop licks he initially played with Charlie Bird Parker to the wah-wah screeds he concocted to keep up with Jimi Hendrix, Davis was as restless as a performer could get. What I want to do next is just share some highlights of what happened in those 90 years since 1926 with Miles. But before I do that, let me just add a little perspective. There are a lot of comments and questions about why Alton and why is Alton honoring Miles Davis. Well, let me just tell you, this Alton community is one that shows honor and respect for those who have done great things, for those who have helped pave the way for us, for those who have selflessly given to the community throughout their lives, and for those who are recognized worldwide for their stature and greatness. In Alton, we name streets and buildings after influential people. We even dedicate parks. I'm honored that my own father, James H. Killian Jr., was recognized for his life work and many contributions to the greater Alton community with the dedication of James Killian Park Jr. at Salute in his honor.
Right.
We have, here in Alton, we've erected monuments to the likes of Elijah P. Lovejoy, the great abolitionist, Robert Wadlow, Alton's giant. And Wadlow, to this day, is still the tallest man in the world, or was the tallest man in the world. Lincoln and Douglas, they all brought fame and visibility to Alton. And these monuments stand as symbols for who we are, who we recognize, and who we memorialize. They represent those who have made a difference in our community, country, and the world. But the question is, why Miles Dewey Davis III? After all, even though he was born on Milner Street in Alton in 1926, his family only lived in Alton another year or so after his birth. Can we claim that Miles as one of our own? I would answer loud and clear, yes, 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 we can.
Yes.
This is the undisputed place of his birth. And from what as I talk to people and do research, I understand that Miles never hesitated in telling people that he was, yes, indeed, born in Alton, Illinois. And he actually deserves to be recognized as one of Alton's most influential citizens. Now, just a few highlights. His parents, Dr. Miles Davis Jr. and Cleota Henry Davis, those were his parents, and there were also two other children in the family, an older sister and a younger brother. Over a year or so after Miles's birth, Dr. Davis moved his family to East St. Louis, where Miles was raised in an upper middle class family in an integrated neighborhood. His father became a successful oral surgeon, and his mother was a music teacher. Miles, in his early years, Miles' babysitter was Josephine Marley Beckwith, who was then a young teen and an East St. Louis resident. Her family would later move to Alton. We'll hear more about some of her reflections later on. At the age of 13, his father gave him a trumpet. Young Miles quickly developed a talent for playing the trumpet under the private tutelage of an Elwood Buchanan, who directed a music school and also was a very good friend of Miles's father. Miles soon joined Lincoln High School Band, which for years was recognized for developing and producing outstanding musicians. While still in high school, at the age of 17, Miles began sitting in with major bands that visited St. Louis, such as the Billy Eckstine Band. During that time, he became connected to the single greatest innovator in modern jazz history, saxophonist Charlie Bird Parker. He was also influenced by another jazz giant, his earliest idol, St. Louis trumpeter Clark Terry. These connections shaped Miles's music and life forever. Excuse me. Miles became a standard bearer for successive generations of musicians. He shaped the course of modern improvisational music more than half a dozen times. The factors that led to this process are now foundations for Miles' legend. Think about it, a youngster learning trumpet in the fertile blues-drenched East St. Louis music scene. A sensitive soul he was, forging a seething, streetwise exterior that later earned him the title Prince of Darkness. The determined teenager convincing his parents to send him to New York's famed Juilliard School of Music in 1944, a ploy allowing him to relocate to New York and to join the band of his idol, Charlie Bird Parker. At Juilliard, Miles studied classical music by day, and by night he gained experience in Harlem nightclubs playing jazz's newest movement, the bebop. As it turns out, Miles didn't really care much for the classical music structure and discipline of Juilliard, and he preferred innovation and improvisation. And with his father's permission, he dropped out of Juilliard and he became a full-time musician. It wasn't long before the headstrong young arrival grew from sideman to leading his own projects and bands of renown. Miles made his first studio recording just before his 19th birthday. His talent and creative affinity were apparent to jazz greats and jazz fans at a very young age. For decades after this first recording, Miles was in the forefront of jazz musicians, setting trends and exploring musical styles from bebop through cool jazz, fusion, and funk. Miles's relentless musical exploration sometimes confounded critics and fans, while making him a hero to others. Miles's influence and impact on the world of jazz extended well beyond the borders of the United States. He is revered in nearly every country around the world. His extensive discography includes 48 studio albums, 36 live albums, 35 compilation albums, 17 box sets, 3 soundtrack albums, 57 singles, and 3 remix albums. Miles held a musical exploratory edge for most of his 65 years. And in case you were not aware, let me just highlight a few of his awards. He received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 1990, highlighting his 8 Grammy Awards. In 2002, his Kind of Blue album was recognized as the greatest jazz album of all time. And it was added to the Library of Congress's National Recording Registry. And then there was his induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2006. 2009, Miles was recognized by the U.S. House of Representatives with a resolution honoring the 50th anniversary of his Kind of Blue album and reaffirming jazz as a national treasure. Miles was a complex man. He was married 3 times to dancer Frances Taylor, singer Betty Mabry, and actress Cicely Tyson. All 3 marriages ended up in divorce. He had in all three sons, a daughter, and 7 grandchildren. He died on September the 28th, 1991, in Santa Monica, California, at the age of 65. Miles was not perfect as a human being, but his artistic contributions are historic and legendary. This legendary trumpeter and band leader, explorer of unknown musical talents, enduring the icon of hip, would be celebrating his 90th birthday next year had he not departed in 1991. But his sound and stature are more alive than ever. Just within the past year, the news of a release of a major musical collection covering 20 years of historic live performances was released. A full-length motion picture starring and produced by Don Cheadle has already begun to generate headlines and other major media attention. And a number of other projects are afoot as well, promising to add more interest and to raise his legacy higher than ever. But in closing, here's where it gets really good. Here's the good news. Alton, his place of birth, stands tall. Alton takes the lead in honoring his life and his exceptional artistic career. Alton, I, along with our committee, we are so, so proud of you. Thank you. Now, at this time, we'll have comments and a message from the family. Now, the immediate family was not able to attend, but in their stead, they sent a quite able emissary, a good family friend. Alvin Parks, who's a former mayor and current city manager of East St. Louis. Alvin?
Thank you so much, Jim. First to Mayor Brant Walker, State Senator William Hayne, State Representative Dan Beiser, to the committee that has put this outstanding event and set of events together here today, to all who are here to commemorate Miles Davis' life and musical contributions. Let me first bring you greetings and salutations on behalf of the Miles Davis family, who asked me to come here today, first of all, with their deepest apologies and regrets for not being able to be here to be a part of this very auspicious occasion. This is an awesome day. And Jim Killian, you have done an outstanding job putting in a capsule the life of our dear friend, Miles Davis. Let's give him one more round of applause. When you think about all the contributions of Miles Davis to the musical history of this world, it's been chronicled very well by Jim Killian. I will not be redundant, but it also takes knowing that this was a man who stepped out and said, I'll go where no one has ever been. I will innovate. I will improvise. I will present music as it has never been presented before, and dare anyone to try to knock it down. And anyone who actually knew Miles Davis knew that this was someone who did not simply march in the steps of other people, but he made his own path. Truly an innovator, and that's one of the things that makes music such the universal language. You're always looking for something new and different. And Miles Dewey Davis gave it to us, music, round after round, album after album, presentation after presentation. The family recognizes that a huge part of his life was in the city of East St. Louis. And I guess that's one of the reasons that I've been asked to represent the family, because East St. Louis was such a very big part of getting Miles Davis started in music. You heard the names of Elwood Buchanan. I'm very happy to say that my father, Alvin Parks Sr., actually played in the band as an underling to Miles Dewey Davis. He was probably the fifth or sixth chair, while Miles Davis was the first chair, but nonetheless, he was there with him. And you could just tell the tutelage and the discipline that was instilled in Miles Davis to present himself as one of the greatest musicians that anyone has ever seen was actually shaped in East St. Louis, Illinois, while he was born right here in Alton. Mayor Walker, I want to commend you and this outstanding committee led by Pat Ackman and Karen Wilson and all the rest of the committee that raised the money to make this happen, to do this in your entertainment district, because clearly Clearly, Miles Davis was a tremendous entertainer. The foresight that you and your staff and administration, this committee had to have it right here on 3rd Street, everything just came together beautifully. You even drew up a great weather day here in Alton. I just noticed the sun happened to come out right before the program began. So you couldn't have done it any better, Mayor. I also want to say that there are several things that are going on, but we in East St. Louis also embrace the history of Miles Davis. You probably know that there is an elementary school that is named after Miles Davis, and their nickname is the Miles Davis Blue Notes. It's now a kindergarten center right at 15th and St. Clair Avenue. But that's not where it stops. Lauren Parks, who I'm going to ask to stand along with Gary Pearson, are developing the House of Miles in East St. Louis, which is a not-for-profit organization to take the childhood home, which is at 1701 Kansas, and actually continue the commemoration and the legacy of Miles Davis. So again, to the committee, on behalf of the Miles Davis family, we thank you for this tremendous honor. Thank you for thinking enough of this man to say, let's erect a statue and let it be right in the heart of the Alton Entertainment District. God bless you and God keep you.
Thank you so much for those comments. Thank you. Nice message for the family. At this stage, I mentioned earlier that Miles Davis's babysitter was actually from Alton. At the time, she babysat him in his young years in East St. Louis. And she just turned 100 years old about 3 or 4 months ago. We had her celebrate her 100th birthday. She's unable to be here physically, but trust me, in spirit she is here. But representing her and sharing those reflections is a good friend of mine and a strong supporter of our committee in this effort, Bonnie McLemore Fox. She'll come forward and speak for Ms. Beckwith.
Thank you, Jimmy. Now, most of you here probably know Mrs. Josephine Marley Beckwith, and you know all the work that she has done here in this community, and so it should be no surprise to you that she would have a part in the history of Miles Davis. Now, let me tell you, a couple of years ago, I introduced a writer to Mrs. Beckwith. That writer, Eugene Baldwin, who's seated to my left, he interviewed her for about an hour for a project that the YWCA of Alton was doing. Mrs. Beckwith told of her role in her role in Alton as a civil rights pioneer and how she was the one who started the kindergarten for African American children. She also told how proud she was of her cousin, Ralph Bunch. Mrs. Beckwith said, "When I think of the dark times, the days of segregation, I feel a pain constrict in my heart." She said, "But I remain firmly committed to the philosophy of nonviolence in the face of oppression, and I act prayerfully and patriotically." She said, "I look forward, not to the past." Now, there was a long lull, and then finally, Eugene said, "Recount your earliest childhood memory." And those of us who know Mrs. Beckwith, we know of this gesture that she does. She says, "Oh," and she puts her hand to her chest. So we know she said, "Oh, I must have been about 11. And she said, "We lived across the street from the Davises." And she said, "I remember carrying baby Miles. I was walking with my sister Naomi, my mother, and Mrs. Davis down to Dr. Davis's dental office." She said, "We were taking him his lunch." She said, "Now there was a pool table in the dental office," and she said, "Now don't ask me why." she said, but I would always place baby Miles on the pool table so that he wouldn't roll off. Well, Eugene said, baby Miles? Baby Miles? Miles Davis? And Mrs. Beckwith, again, how we know she does, those of us who know her, she said, yes, yes. She said, did you know him? Did you know him? You know, he became a famous musician. Have you heard of him? As only Mrs. Beckwith could do. So, now this story, Eugene said that he spoke with one of Mrs. Beckwith's sons, and they hadn't even heard this. Now, I don't know how, because many of us have heard the story of how she was Miles Davis's babysitter. So, now Miles Davis was here, born into a prosperous family. His mother played blues piano, and I'm sure Mrs. Beckwith must have heard that. She repeated herself as she ended her interview, and she told Eugene, I look forward, not to the past. Miles himself would understand too well those words. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Mrs. Beckwith. In my professional career, on a personal level, I've been involved in hundreds of committees, boards, projects, and most of them were pretty effective and high-performance ventures. But I'd have to say, I would look at my experience with this committee and the Miles Davis Memorial Committee as one of the highlights and one of the most enjoyable and fulfilling experiences I've had along those lines. This was truly a great committee. And at this time, I'd like to bring forward the two people that I think are really most responsible for the leadership and the passion that fueled that committee and its effectiveness. I'd like to, at this time, for comments and remarks, I'd like for Karen Wilson and Pat Ackman to come forward.
Beautiful crowd here today, and I'm short, so I've got to get this thing down here. I want to thank you for being here today in recognition of one of the most influential musicians of the 20th century. Projects such as this always begins with the seed of an idea. In this case, it was two ideas that sparked the conversation. The first came from a gentleman within our own community who dreamed of this moment for quite some time, Mr. Tom Ragland. Tom is a member of the Jazz Committee of the Alton Museum of History and Art. He's also responsible for the creation of the Miles Davis postage stamp and introduced us to the work of our sculptor, Preston Jackson. The second idea, which is the reason I became involved, came from my musician son, David Ackman, who's sitting right out here. Through conversation, David asked why Alton had statues of Robert Wadlow, Lincoln Douglas, and a monument to Elijah P. Lovejoy, and nothing to recognize our historic connection to one of the most influential musicians in the world, Miles Davis. After all, he was born right here in Alton, Illinois. That question prompted me to research and combine the ideas of these two different people, which ultimately resulted with the partnering of information and resources of the Alton Museum of History and Art and Pride Incorporated. Pride is a community beautification organization. When the idea was presented to the board of directors, they agreed this was the ultimate beautification for downtown Alton. Pride Incorporated provided all administrative support and volunteered in funding to launch the project. And Karen Wilson immediately volunteered to co-chair with me, and we began the formation of the Miles Davis Memorial Project Committee. This project has given me many new friends that I respect and will cherish forever. This entire committee is a dream team, and Karen Wilson is one of them. She is very involved and dedicated to the betterment of this community, and her ideas and support were invaluable, and I could not have done this without her. We will forever share some very special memories. Ladies and gentlemen, my co-chair, Karen Wilson. I love you, girl.
I'm the tall one, so I have to move this up. This has been an incredible journey. What strikes me most has been the evolution of comments that have been made. It started, as with many large projects, "That's never gonna happen." Or, "There's a whole lot better things we could spend our money on than a statue." And, you know, it went on and on. But then we started hearing, "It's about time. Great news. We're proud to support the efforts of bringing a statue of this hometown legend to Alton." In fact, we even started receiving encouragement in different languages. As the worldwide community of music got involved. At this time, we want to recognize the entire committee who put their hearts and souls into the project. Without their insights, efforts, connections, and enthusiasm, we would not be here today. So would the entire steering committee please stand? John Barnard, Jody Basola, Pete Basola, Monica Bristow, Bart Elfrink, Jared Hennings, Heather Hope, Jim Killian, Sarah McGivney, Bill Moyer, Derek Richardson, Alderman Jim Ryan, Joanne Shepard, Russ Smith, Brett Stawar, and Ken Whiteside. This is an amazing group of people who took a Herculean task and never gave up. And speaking of never giving up, Pat Ackman is without a doubt the most determined person I know. She may be little, but she's mighty. She's done nothing but work, dream, sleep, and eat this project from the very beginning. Her love of jazz and all things Miles Davis has been inspirational. In fact, Pat is cool. Which means in the world of jazz, she's quiet, understated, and works well with an ensemble. She agreed to spearhead this band of enthusiasts and vowed to make today happen, and she has. But this isn't just the project of an energetic committee and tireless chairperson. The entire Riverbend community, as well as the worldwide music community, pulled together to make this happen. Each and every one of you has had an influence on the outcome of this project. You should be extremely proud of yourselves. Pat and I and the entire committee want to say thank you from the bottom of our extremely full hearts. Thank you for embracing Miles. He's back home.
Thank you very much. Very well said. At this time, I'd like to bring to the podium our mayor, the Honorable Brant Walker.
I'm going to have to move this down. I'm the short one, too. Good evening, Alton, Illinois. How's everybody this evening? Take a look at this crowd. Can you believe it? What speaks more highly of an individual's life and his success and his memory than the people that turn out for him? And it's in this crowd, it's in this committee, and it's in this city. This is a tremendous city for those of you that are not from here that holds on to its past, respects it, reveres it, and does everything it possibly can to remember it. And this is just another small example of how this city recognizes greatness. Before I give my thank you, I just would like to point out we do have some other dignitaries here. Alderman Ryan, I know you've been wanting this to happen for a long time. Congratulations. This is his ward, and I know it's got to be a very proud moment for he and his wife this evening. We also have Rick Fasten, our Madison County Auditor and Altonian. Rick, it's good to see you tonight. And we also have our great state representative here, Dan Beiser, in the crowd. So thank you guys for coming out. I hope I didn't miss anybody else. I think I might have been one of the first ones when Pat came to my office and says, well, what do you think? And I said, I think it's overdue, Pat. And she goes, you think we'll do it? And I'll agree with Karen. I said, absolutely, I think you'll do it. I don't see anybody going to stop you. And anything the city can do to make this happen, we will do it. And then Pat was an unstoppable force. And they really, truly did put together a dream team of everybody in the city, and nobody quit. This has been a culmination of nothing but tireless work, fundraising, sweat, sleepless nights to finally make this come true. And I couldn't be more proud to be a mayor of a city that would recognize greatness the way that this city has, and recognize Miles Davis, the greatest trumpet player, no offense, Mr. Shue, in the world. And I mean that too. I couldn't be happier. Bobby Shue is going to play in Alton, Illinois tonight. Are you kidding me? And we have Preston Jackson, probably the best sculptor in the world, did the sculpture here. I mean, what an incredible night. What an incredible group of talented people to put together to pull this off. It's absolutely fantastic. So on behalf of myself and the city of Alton, Illinois, welcome Altonians, welcome RiverBend community, and welcome everybody from the United States. Please enjoy yourself as Alton takes another great step in becoming the premier entertainment district in the St. Louis metropolitan area. God bless you all, and thank you for turning out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our state senator from the 56th Senate District in the Metro East, representing much of Madison County, part of St. Clair, and Jersey counties, the Honorable William Hayne.
Thank you, Mr. Killian. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to be here. I can't believe it either. Dan Beiser and I, of course, were born and raised at Alton, and we're currently in the General Assembly, he in the House, I in the Senate. Unlike Dan, however, I remember I'm much older. So I bought the LP, Kind of Blue, in 1959. And I bought Crisscross by Thelonious Monk. And I bought Charlie Mingus's You Better Get It in Your Soul. Blue Rondo a la Turk. How many old guys are out here? Okay? I grew up on Royal Street. That's 4 blocks from Milner. I live on Liberty with my wife Anna. That's still 4 blocks from Milner. I delivered Milner, the whole street, over the St. Louis Post-Dispatch when it was an afternoon paper. So it is just incredible that this committee was able to do this and tell the world the Alton, Godfrey, Wood River area is recognizing, as was said over and over, one of the greatest musicians ever to be produced in the United States. Yes. Jazz as an art form is unique to America. This is America. He is on the Mount Rushmore of jazz composers and musicians. Miles Davis. Ladies and gentlemen, what can we say? This is Alton, yes, but it's America. It's America. Miles Davis is more American than anything except for the map of the United States. He is just an incredible person. I am so honored to be from the same hometown he is. And when my wife and I leave here this afternoon, we're going to go home and we're going to put on Kind of Blue.
Thank you, Senator Hayne. And now I'd like to introduce our special guest. He's an international jazz trumpet artist. So bear with me, because I want to share with you some of the credits and some of the things about this man. He never played with Miles Davis, but they sat together in 1960s era New York clubs and listened to other musicians. They met when Bobby was a teenager. I'll let him tell you about that. Had an early start in playing with Tommy Dorsey Orchestra. He went on to play with Woody Herman, Buddy Rich, Maynard Ferguson, Benny Goodman, and many other big bands. He toured and played lead trumpet with Elvis Presley, Barbra Streisand, Robert Goulet, and others. He has played and recorded with just about every big name jazz artist. He is the co-designer and developer of the Shu model Yamaha trumpet and flugelhorn, mouthpiece, and a special mute. He's a former professor of trumpet at USC in Los Angeles, Cal State Northridge, and the California Institute of Arts. He was elected into the New Mexico Music Hall of Fame. Numerous Grammy nominations, and in 1982 he received the Album of the Year award from the Recording Industry Association of New Zealand. In 2014 he was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award for Performance and Education from the International Trumpet Guild. Bobby first connected with Miles Davis Memorial Project through our Indiegogo fundraising effort. He expressed his sincere interest in making the sculpture a reality. He donated money for a brick, and he emailed his many followers worldwide to support the project. Following his emails, we received donations from all over the world. Please join me in giving Bobby Shu a big Alton welcome.
I don't remember doing all of that, actually. There's been so much wonderful material said about Miles Davis today. There's not much that I can really say. When I got the email and phone call from Pete Bisola to invite me to be here to speak and perform for this event, it took me about 20 minutes to get my jaw off of the desk. It's, for me being here, it's not me. I feel I'm kind of a representative for a great many musicians that could have been invited to be here. Last night, a bunch of us in the committee, we had a dinner together, and I mentioned to people, there's probably at least 1,000 trumpet players in the world that would deservedly, could have deservedly been invited for this and would have wanted to be here. And probably right about now, there's 999 of them really pissed off that they're not. But I represent them, really. You know, it's not me, but I think I'm standing here for not only thousands and thousands and thousands of trumpet players and musicians worldwide who are here. We've had lives in music because of Miles Davis's influence. Nobody escapes this guy. It's impossible to escape Miles Davis. Some people have tried, can't do it. He came into the world of jazz and bebop and so forth with Charlie Parker, and then through Dizzy Gillespie and so forth. But he eventually influenced the entire world of rock and roll and everything else. He just kind of had that way of taking over the planet, you know. And I met him when I was 18 years old, and I've thought twice about what I should say, and I've thought 1,000 times of what I should say today. And early this morning I thought, you know, I'm a jazz musician. Don't plan ahead. You know? So everything that comes out of my mouth right now is just happening in the moment, right? So at 18 years old, I was on a national youth band in Bloomington, Indiana, and they invited us to come to French Lick, Indiana to play for the French Lick Jazz Festival, which was quite a prominent festival. Of course, we were thrilled. I was 18 years old, and all the other kids were my age or younger. And we were actually pretty good. And this was the beginning of jazz education. This was the first jazz workshop that ever occurred on planet Earth. It was really the first one. And even the faculty weren't sure what to do. But 150 of us kids showed up at Indiana University, and they just started piecing this together. Well, so anyway, they drove us on a bus down to French Lake, and we played a concert, and all of the people were, my God, these kids, how can they play that well at that age? So we were a big hit. So they brought us back the next night, and we weren't playing that night, but we were hanging around. Well, so we walked backstage with these VIP passes, you know, at 18 years old. And lo and behold, there's Cannonball Adderley and Miles Davis standing right there. Oh my God. You know. So there's another little trumpet player from Houston with me, Louis is his name. And he says to me, if you don't mind me doing this, he says, "Hey Bob, look over there, man, there's Miles and Cannonball." And I said, "Yeah, but..." He said, "Let's go say hello to him." I says, "Louis, Miles doesn't look he doesn't look too happy. I don't think we should go over there." And Miles had that scowl on his face, you know, for which he was quite famous. And I said, "I don't know, Louis." He says, "Come on, it'll be cool." So we went over there, you know, and he drugged me over there. And Louis was this aggressive little Mexican kid that he wasn't afraid of anything. Walked up to Miles and he said, "Hey Miles, man, my name is Louis, and this is my man Bobby. We're both trumpet players, and we love your music." And Miles says, "You kids get the beat out of here." That was my introduction to Miles Davis. I thought, thanks, Louis. the beginning though, but you know, his music has influenced me in so many ways. I don't copy him. I don't try to copy him. I did for a while, but nobody can be Miles Davis, you know? You have to find your own voice, but you find your own voice through the influence of people such as him. And I can tell you that there's nobody that has escaped the influence of Miles Davis. This, to me, to be a part of this event here is certainly a highlight of my career. I've been playing the trumpet for 65 years and still working on it, you know? But I can look back at a lot of great moments, but none greater than to see a community come together and people worldwide to build a statue of somebody that's not sitting on a horse with a saber. You know, we need to support creative people in this world, creative arts. You know, musicians are. I cannot believe I have been so blessed to be a musician in this life. I don't know how it happened, but I'm blessed to be a part of this event today. So thank you all for the invitation to come here, and I'm just can hardly wait to see that statue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bobby. And remember, from 7:30 to 11:30, he's going to sit in and be playing at Elijah P's with the Montez Coleman group. And before I go on, I want to acknowledge the mayor of Godfrey is here, Mike McCormick. Okay, at this time, I now want you to meet the man who made all this happen, Preston Jackson. Okay, I'm going to bring him up to speak in a minute, but I want to tell you a little bit about him. But before I do, I want to acknowledge his beautiful wife, Melba. I first met Preston when we attended SIU Carbondale together in the late 60s. During that time, we became fraternity brothers. Before our SIU days, I knew of Preston. I didn't know him, but I knew of him because he had developed a following in Central Illinois, where I was then a student at the University of Illinois. Okay, he was a leader of a very popular group and had a great following in Central Illinois called Preston Jackson and the Rhythm Aces. At the time, he was a budding recording artist. He had the record out of 45, I'll never forget it. Even back then, early in his career, it was obvious that he was a special talent. At that time, it was a musical artistry that was on display. And then until we reconnected a couple of years ago on Facebook, I had no idea of the breadth and depth of his fine arts talent. I was truly amazed by the many and varied samples of his work that he shared on Facebook. He continues to amaze. Let me give you a couple of examples. Last year, he was recognized with the SIU 2014 Distinguished Alumni Award in the category of Cultural Impact. Earlier this year, he unveiled his sculpture of Richard Pryor in Peoria. Yeah, and last March, when our committee went to visit his studio in Peoria, we arrived a few minutes early. Preston came down to greet us. Then he excused himself, and we said, well, where is he going? Well, we went on up to his studio, and there was Preston there, leading a Tai Chi class. That's how talented this guy is, multi-talented. He's from Decatur, Illinois. He currently lives in Peoria. In 1998, he was chosen laureate of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois, the highest honor given to individuals in the state. He's a professor emeritus of sculpture at the School of Arts Art Institute in Chicago. Miles has always been of importance to Preston, starting at the age of 14. And from just talking to him, I know that having the opportunity to sculpt was like a dream come true. But I'll let him tell you about that. So please welcome to the stage, and let me introduce my friend, my brother, Preston Jackson.
Here, here. Here. Right.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jerry, for those kind words. I got a feeling the sound is blasting you. Am I okay? Okay. There's one of my students out there. Quite a talent himself. Upcoming and well-established piano player, and his vocalist wife, Reggie Thomas and Madra. Are you familiar with their music? You will be if you're not. The style and presentation of the music seemed threatening. It was like dark, or just a tinge of blue. Maybe it was the numerous social events that occurred at that time. Somehow, it affected me deeply, very deeply, I must say. There was the early stages of the Vietnam War, the Cold Wars, the fast-moving issues over the civil rights, and how they were to be, or the strategy, dividing strategies of how to fight against it. And then there was my personal quest to overcome certain psychological wounds that I thought would just fade away. Also, somewhat things about my physical. I had a complex of being short, but now I wear these shoes, you know. I had to care of that. And also there was my failures developed and delivered by a failing school system that didn't understand things like dyslexia, or being left-handed, or being African American. Then there was the proud standards that I tried to live up to, you know, presented to me by my father. And this is how I was to behave and to perform as a young married person with 2 daughters. My wife and I, Natalie and Alice, on the road at the same time. I was on the road at the same time, trying to keep up, you know, with people like Andy and Triplet and all of these really wonderful, smart alphas But anyway, I'm just giving you an example of the trials and tribulations. Most of them were rather psychological, like all things are, but they affect you greatly. I also attempted to act, behave, and to keep up with university people that I admired simply because they were in universities, and I was unprepared, to enter schools. I then attended night schools. I had tutors and also mentors. I caught up with most of them and surpassed them. My running into people or the music and art of people like Miles Davis happened by listening to an album called Kind of Blue. That's when I took out my pen, pencil, Prismacolors, and also oil paint and various medias that I had invented, and I painted from the album. I treated Miles realistically, and I treated him rather Van Gogh-ish and also Cézanne-ish. Yeah, these are famous people. I borrowed ideas from the great Cubist artists Braque and Picasso and the early German expressionists, and attempted to use these elemental tools in representing Miles. I felt the power of his music. I dreamed that I could make the guitar sound like that, like other instrumentalists. They attempted to make their instruments, not being trumpets, but the sound trumpet-like. But it was mainly the attitude of the trumpet that we tried to copy, and especially his ways of being cool. Someone mentioned that early. We tried to walk like Miles. We attempted to talk like Miles. We even messed up our voice so that we could have this kind of growl, I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. Omar, Akandeli, I mean, some crazy people, but we did what we could to be cool. We should have been studying our books. But anyway, Miles had quite an effect on me. And the Kind of Blue album that I listened to, and also Sketches of Spain, and Porgy and Bess, great works of art. It definitely affected me because, like most artists, I made no differences between audio and visual arts. It was all the same. To me, it was like walking from one room into the other. And so I began to try to paint the music. I tried to paint the sounds of Miles and also his gestures, his postures. And this went on for quite some time, especially when I was at ISU, when everyone else was attempting to do the same thing. What really attracted me was the complexities of the structure of the music, also the haunting chords and phrasing that took place, and the new sound of the trumpet. At the beginning of one of the tunes by Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, there was this rumbling, kind of gurgling sound of a G ninth chord with a lot of other nice ingredients thrown in. But it was the beginning of the tune, and it went on and on. It seemed like forever. I felt the power of his music. I dreamed that I could make the guitar sound like that, like other instrumentalists. They attempted to make their instruments, not being trumpets, but the sound trumpet-like. But it was mainly the attitude of the trumpet that we tried to copy, and especially his ways of being cool. Someone mentioned that early. We tried to walk like Miles. We attempted to talk like Miles. We even messed up our voice so that we could have this kind of growl, I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. Omar, Akandeli, I mean, some crazy people, but we did what we could to be cool. We should have been studying our books. But anyway, Miles had quite an effect on me. And the Kind of Blue album that I listened to, and also Sketches of Spain, and Porgy and Bess, great works of art. It definitely affected me because, like most artists, I made no differences between audio and visual arts. It was all the same. To me, it was like walking from one room into the other. And so I began to try to paint the music, try to paint the sounds of Miles, and also his gestures, his postures. And this went on for quite some time, especially when I was at ISU, when everyone else was attempting to do the same thing. What really attracted me was the complexities of the structure of the music, you know, also the haunting chords and phrasing that took place, and the new sound of the trumpet. At the beginning of one of the tunes by Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, there was this rumbling, kind of gurgling sound of a G9 chord with a lot of other nice ingredients thrown in. But it was the beginning of the tune, and it went on and on. It seemed like forever. And then Miles would introduce his sound or his contribution to it, heightening the whole experience. And it's like Miles would come in from nowhere, the way he moves on the stage. This to me was very visual, and I began to imitate Miles in a visual sense. And this is how and why I was so happy and proud to receive this commission. You know, the people that are involved in this are not strangers to me. You know, Jimmy, you know, and my cousins out here, Floyd, and also his wife, his wife, and also his brother. It made it very easy for me. So I took on the commission. I wanted to present Miles in his most famous pose. And of course, you know, Pat and Karen said, this is what we want, you know. And I had to listen to them because they were very right on. The music, the pose was just, the body itself was just an extension of what a horn looks like, you know, and the curved metal shape ending in a blast of the horn, starting from the foot all the way up to the body. And I wanted to capture that, and I do work in a variety of styles. I started off as an abstract sculptor, working with types of metal. But anyway, I paid attention to them and myself, and I came up with this color of the bronze, which is kind of a chocolate-like color, deep chocolate, like the complexion of Miles, a very beautiful person. And so this was my choice. It was finished quite quickly. You know, I usually do a face over and over 5 times or so before I could really get it down. But I listened to the committee. They contributed a lot. They had a lot to say. It was very inspiring and also very helpful. So I'll end it just by saying I want to thank the committee by choosing me to do this, and also the city of Alton, which is a very beautiful city, and I will return because of my interest in history itself. This is a happening place, happened in the past, happening now, and it will in the future. But I want you all to enjoy this statue. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now the time you've been waiting for the sign. Okay, thank you so much, Preston. 3, 2,